What values did you get from your father and your mother?
What?
What values?
Oh, what values?
Did you get from parents?
Well, always, it's kind of hard to put it in words. You had to be responsible for your actions, and they were always really on that. And of course, like I say, I was in 8th grade when my dad died, but my mother was very, she had a iron will, and she had to with 5 kids.
What did you do for fun when you were a kid? Were you into sports, or did you go to the movies, or what did you do?
And lots of sports, a lot of hunting and fishing also, and then in high school, I had the letter in football, basketball, and track, but we never had any baseball back then. But in fact, when I was a senior in high school, I was the only letterman in basketball. But we had a very poor team, but we had a good coach.
Did you go to the movies or listen to the radio or any of that type of thing?
Did I listen to it?
Yeah, in those days, did you go to the movies or did you go to listen to the radio, or how would you get entertainment?
Well, actually, we listened to quite a bit of radio, but that was about it. And I read a lot, and I still like to read.
What was your first kind of books that you liked as a kid?
My first?
The books that you liked to read.
Yeah.
What kind?
Well, I'm a great Western reader, yeah. Always have been.
Now, music. Was there music in the home? Did you have to learn how to play music, or?
Oh, my next oldest brother played the trumpet and cornet, I think they called it. But my oldest brother, no, and I didn't. My sisters didn't, no.
And what was Redmond like in those days? I mean, was it a safe family, like you think about a nice family town, or what was it like?
Well, we had a very close family. And like I say, when my dad was gone, it was a lot of work, and my mother got very little compensation, so all of us kids did lawn work and things like that, you know. And in fact, across the street from us was an empty block, but a guy raised potatoes in it, and during the harvest, the going rate was 3 cents a bag picking potatoes. He always paid us 10 cents. He was a good guy, and just trying to help out the family, you know.
Did your mother work outside the home?
No, but she did a lot of work in the home. She took in a lot of a doctor's laundry and did a lot of ironing, and yeah.
And was she a good cook?
She what?
Was she a good cook?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, very good.
What kind of food?
Oh, mostly just, golly, that's a good question. Well, we ate lots of meat and potatoes and just good old food. We always had chickens and a pig and a cow. And we had about 2 acres there on the west side of Redmond.
Now, when you were in high school, did you know what you wanted to do with your life?
No, not really, no. In fact, after high school, I went to work, first of all, in a hardware store, and you worked 8 to 5 days a week. Saturday was 8 to 6, and I was getting $40 a month. And then I went to work in the bank as a teller, and I was getting $75, so I had lots of money then.
Now, what are your memories of the Depression? What was it like?
It was tough going. We didn't have anything really, and that's when as kids we'd go out and mow lawns and things like that.
Could you tell it was tough times? Did you realize it was the Depression? Did you realize it?
Not really, no.
Was your family political at all? Any politics?
Did they what?
Was your mom into politics at all, or?
Not really, no. No, I can't remember. She always voted, but not. She was not active in politics, or my dad.
On the radio, did you listen to FDR during those times, or the Lone Ranger or whatever?
Oh, mostly. Actually, at the radio, I didn't listen a whole lot of radio, really. And I wouldn't want to say that I mainly this, that, or the other, but yeah.
Now, what year did you graduate high school?
38.
1938.
Yeah. In fact, last year I gave the 75th high school reunion. The principal of the high school said, the superintendent of the school said he'd never heard of a 75-year reunion. Well, there were 54 in our graduating class, and I had at the reunion 7 women and me. But we had a great time, I'll tell you. And they'd had a 30-year reunion, which I wasn't there, I was in the service, but that was the last time they'd seen one another. And then 45 years later they got together and they just had a ball.
Now, how did you meet your wife?
Well, at a USO club in San Antonio, Texas, when I was in pre-flight, going to, yeah.
Tell us her name, your wife's name, and what is first impressions?
She was Betty Jane Hatfield. Yeah, and we still have a lot of fun with the McCoy here in band because of the Hatfields and McCoys. But, yeah, well, I met her at the USO Club.
Do you remember Pearl Harbor Day?
Oh, yes.
What was it like?
Well, funny, I was in the service at the time. I was stationed at Jefferson Barracks, Missouri. And I was in the USO Club in St. Louis that morning, and some MP came up to me and he wanted to know, he says, "Where are you stationed?" And I said, "At Jefferson Barracks." He says, "Will you get your fanny back there right now? Don't you know we're at war?" And I said, "No, I didn't know it." But we found out, and there's some amazing things happen because that was on a Sunday, and I was going to a radio school. Monday they shipped us to Scottfield, Illinois, where the radio school was. We started the next night. They went from 1 class a day to 3 classes a day, and I was in the class 10 at night until 6 in the morning. Wow. And went through that radio school.
That was graveyard shift.
Yeah, it was that.
Now, you said after high school you went to work. When did you decide to go to service?
Well, I was single and working in the bank and really had nothing to tie me down, and I was a very good candidate to be drafted, and I was going to be drafted, so I thought, well, I want in the Army Air Corps, so I enlisted, went to Portland and enlisted.
Did you always think about flying?
Oh yeah, that's why I wanted the Army Air Corps. I wanted to fly.
Now, when you were young, did you have heroes? Any heroes that were some people have sports heroes, some people, did heroes. Did you have any heroes?
Any what?
Heroes.
Oh, well, yes. I had an uncle who was a Navy pilot, and he gave me a lot of good advice and stuff. So basically, he was a hero of mine. He died in that. He was a torpedo squadron pilot, and he was in that torpedo squadron 8 where they all were died and killed. He was a pilot in that outfit.
Where was that at?
That was at Midway.
At Midway. Wow.
Yeah, but and then when I applied, when I first went in, I applied for flying.
Do you remember the first time you flew a plane? Well,
actually, before the war, they had what they called civilian pilot training program, and they had a class there in Redmond. Well, in ground school, there was quite a bunch of us, and a guy named Ernie Sink was running this thing, And I didn't do the real red hot compared to everybody else. There was quite, can't remember how many, but I think I came out 19th or something like that. Well, then this Ernie Sink called me one time and he said, if you can come up with $65, you can get a private license. So I got a hold of $65 and went through this pilot training, got a private license. So before I went in the service, I had a private license.
Do you remember the first time you soloed?
Oh, yeah.
What was it like?
Oh, it was a great thrill. You wonder if really, if you're qualified.
How many hours did you have before you soloed?
And back then you had 8 hours and 35 hours and you got a private license.
And what kind of plane?
Yeah, and that was in Enola Ronca. Yeah. There were, I think, about a dozen of us in that school.
So you were a pilot before you went in service?
True. Yeah.
And did that help you?
Not really.
No.
No. And you were flying entirely different kinds of airplanes. And like in primary, we were flying what they called a PT-19. It was a Fairchild open cockpit, an inline-6 engine, and then you went to a BT-13 in basic, and then an AT-6, all different kinds of airplane. Then
they say that flying, you have freedom up there. Do you like that flying part of it?
Oh yeah, I enjoyed it. I like to fly.
In those days, did you build a lot of friendships with pilots?
You bet, very close. Yes. In fact, I think you get a relationship in the service that you just don't get anywhere else.
Now, what was your favorite kind of plane that you flew?
I liked the P-51, the Mustang. Yeah. But then later I was flying jets when I was recalled, but I still liked the old P-51.
So after Pearl Harbor, you were in radio school. Tell us what happened from your steps where you went after that.
Okay, I was in radio school, and then they sent 7 of us down to, we went to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, to this radar school. We were there a very short time, and we moved over to Boca Raton, and they'd taken over this great big club. Well, that was a little different because before you're sleeping in an open bay barracks with bunk beds, got to the Boca Raton Club, and there was 4 of us in a room. We had our own bathroom and the whole works, But it was a very primitive radar back then. It was British stuff. And they kept this other guy and I there as instructors in the radar lab. But then I think probably because we were waiting to go to aviation cadets too. But and we had a good job there. That was great.
Now, did you write letters home to your mom and dad, or how did you keep in touch?
Oh yeah, quite often. But that was to my mother. Of course, my dad was gone. But then, and then of course I didn't know her then until after that radar school. Then we went to aviation cadets. We went up to Nashville and then to San Antonio. And
what kind of planes were you training on?
Well, actually, your primary trainer was this open cockpit PT-19 up in North Texas in January, and it was cold. But anyhow, then you went to what they called a BT-13, a Vultee vibrator, we called it, but it had a 450-horse engine. And then we went down to southern Texas to advanced school down at by McAllen. It was Moorfield at Mission, Texas. And you flew AT-6s, and that was the first one you had that had a retractable gear. And then from there you go. Oh, a lot of them went to transport or bombers and fighters, and I was one of the lucky ones who went to fighters.